I've been making proactive decisions from the beginning. In fact, some of the decisions that I made in terms of being the last city to open in the state of Florida and in Miami-Dade County, I was criticized for. I think the numbers are particularly staggering right now. We're seeing 4 times the growth rate that we saw prior to the stay-at-home order. We're seeing our hospitalizations up, our ICUs are up, and most worrisome is our ventilators are getting close to where they were at the peak. And that's understanding that ventilators are not being used as frequently as they were at the beginning, and people are thankfully surviving a higher percentage of the use of ventilators. But it's still a critical statistic that we look at to look at the death rate, which of course is the most worrisome statistic.
I noticed in the announcement today that you did not decide to close offices and stores. There are increasing worries, Mayor Suarez, about indoors, about air conditioning. They're not as dependent on that in Europe, where they are seeing better case numbers. It's so hot and humid right now in Florida. I don't have to tell you. Why did you make the decision not to close offices?
Yeah, again, that's the county mayor's order. The county mayor ordered the restaurants and certain things open. And I think there are people that, sort of are on both sides of this argument, frankly, who have issues with the order. And one of the issues was precisely what you articulated, which is that it doesn't close, commercial spaces that, previously were closed under the initial phase. So I can't answer you why he didn't close that. I can tell you that there are people that are obviously very worried about the fact that that's not closed and that maybe his orders didn't go far enough. And there are other people that I'm getting that are concerned about the fact that there doesn't seem to be a real long-term plan. That the issue is we're shutting down restaurants and people who have spent a ton of money to comply with the rules. And, that there are some bad actors, or a lot of bad actors, but, you're also shutting down an entire industry. And there may be, many people who are not bad actors. So, it's very, very difficult to make decisions in this environment. There are no, sort of set of rules. We're doing the very best that we can with the information that we have.
Mayor, a lot of the discussion, I guess, this time around is who is really responsible when we see a spike in cases. Is it leadership, whether that's federal, state, county, or city? Or is it actually the individuals now? So much has happened since February and March. The level of education and knowledge about the disease is far higher. Is this really now on the individuals that are taking part in gatherings as opposed to leaders like yourself or above?
Look, I think we all have to take ownership of this issue, right? This is something where leaders are expected to lead and make decisions based on science and based on data and not make it partisan, because this is not a partisan issue. And leaders also have to weigh the impact of their decisions on the economy. And the residents also have to follow the rules. And I think, both have been issues at times. And so I think, what we see is, for example, when we started opening, we saw a direct correlation between opening and a rise in cases. So that normally means that there's a behavioral issue. At the same time, we saw our economy starting to come back, and we saw the days where we had the highest level of reemployment, right? The low, our unemployment levels dropping. We also saw the highest level of contagion in our country. And so that happened at the same exact time. So there's definitely a correlation between opening an economy and seeing increased cases. The problem is, how do you go forward? How do you move forward? Because the plan has always been, hopefully, to gradually open an economy by gradually loosening the restrictions. And that just hasn't worked. And so we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and come up with a coherent plan that will work.
So 2 quickies. One on, you mentioned that the ventilators were getting full. What is your overall hospital capacity at this point as far as ICU beds? And on a related note, how are you protecting the elderly in that state and in Miami in particular?
Well, the elderly, we're protecting them by giving them masks. We're protecting them by asking them to stay at home. We're protecting them by feeding them. And we're protecting them by testing them in home, which is, something that, we're one of the first cities in Florida, certainly, to do that. In terms of ICU capacity, our ICU capacity is getting smaller, frankly, where, I think the hospitals are doing what they can to expand capacity. They, for example, our largest public hospital last week they stopped elective surgery so they can expand capacity. But it is definitely getting more and more severe, which is why I think some of our officials have acted right now to try to stop that from becoming a worse problem.